In this video, we're going to be writing reflections of absolute value functions. So we're going to let f of x equal the absolute value of x plus 3 plus 1. So as our first part, we're going to write a function g whose graph is a reflection in the x-axis of the graph of f. Remember, when we're talking about transformations of absolute value functions, when we're talking about reflecting, our graph's going to flip over our x or our y-axis, which means that our negative sign is either going to be on the inside of the absolute value symbols when we're reflecting across the y-axis, or on the outside in front of the absolute value symbols if we're going to reflect across the x-axis. So let's go back to our problem. So in part A, it tells us that this reflection is going to happen in the x-axis, which means that we're going to want our negative sign to be in front of our f of x, so in front of our absolute value symbol. So to get our g of x, so we're going to put our negative sign out in the front, and then we're going to put our equation for f of x on the inside. And now what we want to do is we want to distribute that negative sign. Oops, and draw that a little bit better. We want to distribute that negative sign once to the front of the absolute value symbol and once to the 1, because here we see we have two terms. This is kind of counted as one term or piece, and the 1 is counted as one term or piece because they're being separated by this plus sign right here. So that means that our negative sign out in front can only go to those two places, 1, 2. So that gives us that g of x is going to equal a negative absolute value of x plus 3, and then a negative times a positive gives us a negative 1. And that's going to be our answer for letter A. Now if we look at letter B, it says write a function h whose graph is a reflection in the y-axis of the graph of f. And so up above, we just kind of went back through and saw that that means that our negative symbol is actually going to be on the inside with our x. So what does that look like? Well, we're going to go ahead and write g of x equals, and we're going to start to write it. So absolute value, but now where we have our x means that what we're actually going to have is a negative x plus 3, close the absolute value symbol, plus 1. And we see here that there's nothing that that negative x can be combined with, which means, I guess technically that's not a g of x, is it? It's an h of x, because it told us h right here. So that tells us our answer is h of x equals the absolute value of negative x plus 3 plus 1. And so that's going to be our final answer for part B.